Maybe.
This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, she's back. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. She can let people in as they come on. We'll start with you, Cheryl. I gave you a paragraph. Let's see what you have to say.
Oh, let me see which page down.
148. It's the fifth one down that says support nuclei.
148.
And she is in the vocabulary essentials book.
148.
No, we're not in B Central. Vocabulary.
It bounce back and forth.
Yeah, they go back and forth.
Am I there? Ah, there. Look, see, I'm here.
Here it is. Support nucleus.
All right. Support nucleus, resource hive, brood factories, brood banks. Keeping nuclei in an apiary during the spring and summer provides support hives with young laying queens. The support nucleus hive may be used to save or store a hive when a queen is accidentally killed. You may remove frames of brood and the adhering bees to boost colonies. Even colonies being placed into honey production, nuclei may be wintered when given adequate food.
Yeah, one more. So it touches on that we can bank a queen and we can bank brood, but another thing we can do is use it to grow, to make wax. You can just keep changing out the frames and just let them pull it out to the point of pulled out and then use those.
Dad, can you give me a definition? And I have a rough idea, but when you say to bank a queen, what exactly does that mean?
Anywhere you're keeping a queen that is not in a productive growing hive, she's banked.
Right.
So she is mated.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's my definition.
So I've actually banked queens that I took from a queen cup,
Yes.
and they went out and got mated and came back to my queen castle. So not necessarily mated in the beginning, but you want them to get mated.
Correct. So like I call a banked queen is a queen that's kept rather in a small hive off to the side or a nuke or a queen castle, that she is just used to either just lay brood and you keep taking that out, or to keep her alive, existing with a small amount of bees in case you need her, like in another hive if you find one that's out. Somebody's in chat.
Can you split a 10-frame hive into 2 5-frame nukes? Yes. And have a queen on each side? Can you put like a blank board between them?
Yes.
Yes.
And turn that into like 2.
Well, it changes into 2 4-frame nukes.
Right.
4, yeah, because you'll have a division board like in the bottom. If you was to have a full 10 on the bottom and then put 2 nukes on the top, they would be 4 frames.
And that's why I ordered 4-frame nukes.
You can put a thin piece of board between it, and then you can use normal nuke boxes on top, and then they would be called 5-overs, 5 by 5.
Right, but I think what she's asking, Phyllis, is what you talked about last week, where you can take a 10-frame nuke, put a divider in it. And
yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. You can do it.
Oh, okay.
Do a thicker board and have 4 frames, or you can do a thinner board and have 5 frames on each, and then you don't have to buy any special equipment. So, because we had to make, we're going 5-overs. We're going to change ours to a thinner board, and then I can use my normal nukes on top instead of making 4-frame boxes. if that
Kind of
makes-
like that piece of paneling thickness stuff that
Yes, quarter
Luvon
inch.
or whatever
Yeah, just-
Luvon.
Yeah, just
quarter inch.
something, yeah,
Mhm.
just something to divide them.
But you need to remember, if you're taking the lid off of those, now you have two exposed. So they may fight or, get back and forth. So you would have to use a piece of board or a piece of
Fabric.
cloth and keep one side closed while you're working in one.
You have horse feed sacks.
Yeah, I have that. I use the silver.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep.
Stuff, whatever. I use that and I cut that to fit, and I
Just
can
make
put one on each
sure
side.
When you first start off, I staple mine in the middle so they can't cross over at all. Because you will lose a queen if you let them cross over.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at. So you might not be able to staple too well at a quarter inch, but you could run a piece of silicone glue or something down across there, and then you would just have a flap. It would be secured in the middle.
Just make sure it's aquarium silicone if you use it. Don't use just normal silicone.
Right, it's toxic.
Is everyone seeing my resource hive screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Kathy, would you like to read those first 3 paragraphs for me, please?
What, on page 1?
Oh,
On
was
the
I
screen.
supposed to, was
All
I
right.
supposed to read the brood factories too? Because I skipped that. I didn't know.
No,
First, okay, what
on
is
the
it?
screen.
Yeah, sure. What is a resource hive? The resource hive is basically a modified deep body that turns the nuke into 2 nukes, turns the deep into 2 nukes. The 2 nukes in the deep may be stacked 2 nuke bodies atop with 1 individual nuke inner covers and a telescoping top cover. The bottom board for a resource hive has alternate entrances for each chamber to prevent drifting between colonies. Resource hives are great for overwintering nukes that may be used as a tool for raising queens and creating splits. You may also put a resource hive to work to boost weak colonies with brood. The concept of using nukes as a resource hive was first brought to the beekeeping world by Michael Palmer of French Hills Apiaries in St. Albans, Vermont. He was introduced to this concept of using nukes when visiting a fellow beekeeper's apiary and seeing nukes with bearding bees. In other words, full nukes being used as resources within the apiary.
Thank you. Sue, will you do the next ones? Wait a minute, let me get it there. I'm just a little hoarse tonight.
There you go.
She's reading away, but
She's muted.
yeah, here she.
You have to hear me. Good Lord. Okay. After researching his friend's techniques in more detail, he learned that his fellow beekeeper was replicating the techniques first introduced for overwintering nukes by freaking brother Adam of Buckfast Abbey in England. So see, Phyllis, you like Michael Palmer, man. He's channeling the old people. Brother Adam was a Benedictine monk. Now, I have to admit that being a former medievalist who considered a doctoral program in English literature, the thought of a monk pioneering these techniques both appeals to me and amuses me at the same time. Well, I'm amused, but I am anywhere near English literature. I was a science person. My writing sucks. You want me to do the next one? Or am I good?
Go ahead and do the next one, and I'll
Okay.
pick on Rhonda.
All right, putting my resource hive to work. A few weeks ago, I purchased a resource hive. This resource hive divides the deep body into 2 4-frame nuke bodies. As you can see in the pictures, it meets the specification of a resource hive that I described above. So let me wrap my head around this. Let me see that paragraph before, because my little brain Okay, go up a little bit, or where'd it go? Okay, divides a deep body into 2 4 frame. Well, a deep body is 10 frames, right?
Yeah, but the space in between.
So he has 2 4 frame nukes. So he's got 4 frames, and then a divider, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. Sorry. Gotcha. All right. Sorry.
I'm sorry I jumped the gun on this.
That's all right. I digress. Okay, so with the
No, you
resource
didn't.
hive, I now have 2 5-frame nukes and essentially 2 4-frame nuke bodies. This gives me room to make 4 splits from my colonies this spring to get my resource hive production in place. I'm considering using my nukes to start a queen rearing production to build new nukes to supply to fellow beekeepers and my own apiary. We have had a severe issue with readily available queens in our area, and so I would like to get involved in the process of filling a gap that I have seen all too well myself in my first season. So my winter will be spent learning the techniques that Michael Palmer and brother Adam are putting to use with the resource hive. It will involve a significant amount of research about these techniques. So this blog post is just the first of likely of a series where I will share what I'm learning about these techniques. Dude, whose blog is this?
Be Perfect.
Okay, cool. Interesting.
And as you can see, they have a full bottom, a 10 frame bottom. There's a little divider board, but that's a thick divider board. So now this turns into this system to 4 frame nukes on the top. And the bottom board lets, on the left, you'll see the entrance out for that side. And then on the back side of that box, the entrance will be on the right to let the bees out of that side.
So
have a
you'd have to
question.
modify a bottom
Okay.
board.
If you're going to build one with equipment that you have, you'll modify. If you want to buy one, this is how you'll buy it. But Phyllis, what she's going to do is she has all that equipment and she's going to modify what she has.
I want to know how you get an opening. Like you could use the regular entrance for one opening, but if you're using the equipment you already have, how do you modify it to get another opening for the other hive?
Just take a little jigsaw and cut the bottom board out, the back side of the bottom board.
But if
Okay,
you
thank
didn't want to do that, the little disc that everybody sells and Debbie
That's
makes,
right. I
Yeah.
make them, yeah.
you can use that. And you don't have to worry about the bottom board. Just make it a 4-sided bottom board with a divider in it from, your deep, but it's got to go all the way down to the bottom. So therefore it's going to be longer. And because my bottom boards all have the board by itself splitting it in the center, and then my deeps have its own middle board. So
do we have to, if we're going to use the discs, we wouldn't even need a bottom board at all. We could just put it flat on a piece of flat wood, right? That was the right size.
absolutely.
And then the disc would be the entrance and you could put them
Yes.
on either one.
Yeah.
One on the front, one on the back.
And you could also just put screen on it on the bottom, and
Correct.
Yeah.
That would be, yeah, you could put screen on and still use a bottom board for air circulation.
Yep.
But the bees wouldn't use it.
Right.
Okay, Rhonda, will you get this one for me?
Sure. What is a queen castle? The queen castle is a tool used by many beekeepers for queen rearing. The queen castle may be used to house a frame with a queen cell. Essentially, the typical deep queen castle uses dividers to yield 4 2-frame nukes or 2 5-frame nukes. The medium queen castle may be divided into 3 2-frame nukes.
Now this is, mine looks like this. It has 4 sections.
Yeah, mine had 3
That one,
sections.
yeah, that one's got 4. You'll see 3 of the boards are up and then 1 was down. But I then took and had the hubby drill me holes the size of a quart jar lid.
Me too.
So, and then, so I'll put that box down and it has the entrances going out 4 sides. And then those little slat boards will cover each section. And then I put a second deep on and put a quart jar in each of the open hole, each of those holes.
So there's literally, you could be raising 4 queens in there.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Or you can divide up your queen cells to
Mhm.
4, but the bees.
An area that size is going to populate really, really quick. So what do you
does.
do to keep the population down, but the queen happy?
Very lot of checking. You're going to have some frames that are already drawn out and go out there like every other day and trade them frames out and keep her empty frames.
Deb, if you
Yeah.
gave her not drawn out frames, wouldn't that keep her a little busier?
Well, she doesn't do none of that. It's the workers that do.
Right. I mean, but
So she'll be in stalemate until they draw those out. Yes.
I mean, if you
But
had
if you-
3 frames in there, one's going to be food and one's drawn, and you want to keep them busy, couldn't you put this is a question, couldn't you put one frame that's not drawn it out so the workers have something to do and they don't fill it up so fast?
They do, but if you're using it as a brood chamber
Okay.
to grow resources, to grow
Right.
brood, you want to keep the comb ones in there.
Okay. That's good to know.
But
Right.
if you are using it to make new comb and to make new frames, then yes, you will keep her on one, which she'll be laying on, and you'll be trading out the second one all the time. As soon as they start building that comb out, you'll take it out. So it's depending on what you want your resource hive to do is how you're going to manipulate it.
And you need to remember that these are going to be not made with a bunch of bees like you make a nuke. So they
Right.
don't have the resources to pull out all this wax and stuff like you're thinking.
You're only going to have like 1 frame of bees.
That's why you have to feed them and everything. Yeah.
And check them off. And yes, Cheryl?
That's not my concern. My concern is when I move bees out of there, how do I know that I'm not taking away the bees that are taking care of my queen versus one that's tending to the brood? Because different bees do different jobs in the hive, correct?
Correct.
So how do I know that I'm not taking the wrong bees from the resource hive that the queen needs versus the ones that the brood needs? How do I know?
You are typically not taking bees. You're going to only be taking the resources of a frame.
So you scrape the bees, take the
Yes.
bees back off in there and just take just the brood and the frame.
Correct.
When you do that and you put that in, the other bees in the hive will take care of, new nurse bees will take care of that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's not already,
Absolutely.
Because there's no
Okay.
pheromone to it. So it doesn't have a pheromone that would make them fight or reject.
And usually you take capped brood.
Yeah, cat brood.
You don't take open brood.
All right.
You can.
Sorry, Phyllis.
No, I'm just saying you can, but usually you take the cap brood.
So I have a question because this resource hive, it interests me. So again, it's like, why do you beekeep? Because you have 100 different reasons if you ask 100 different people. So I'm doing a resource hive. I understand how I can do it to take a frame of brood to boost a hive that's weak, shake off those bees, put that brood in my weak hive gets, 10,000 new bees coming out. I want frames of drawn deep wax. What do I do different to encourage to get frames of wax versus frames of brood?
You're going to have to check very, very often and make sure that she has a frame that is drawn out that she will lay in and stay there. And then they will work this one. So you're going to have to check it every couple days. And as soon as it started to be drawn out, you're going to have to get it out of there, or she will go over there and lay.
So I'm thinking in my like Sue Olson life, and this is something I want to do. So I told my husband, I know I cannot travel between mid-April and mid-June next year. I am going nowhere because thou shalt take care of my bees. I'm finally learning. But it almost seems like if I was going to do a resource hive in my world, 5 frames would make my life much easier. Like,
I think so too.
I think 5 frames, and that you've got more wiggle room for what she's doing and stores. And like Phyllis and that picture Debbie showed, that deep divided with that other box on top. Yes, I think 5 frames would just, it just seems to me like it would be easier to catch.
Yeah, so that's why I was showing the differences in the two, so you can decide what you're going to run this system for, in which you would, what you're going to prefer to do. Now,
Well-
typically in that queen castle, all I use it basically to do is I'll put over, if I find a frame that's got a queen cell on it, I'll put it in there, put it with my bees. They hatch her out. She goes out, gets mated, comes back. If I see her start laying in those 2 frames, then I nuke it. I take those 2 and put them in a nuke. And then I put 2 more frames in when I get another queen cell. And that's how I generate my queen, and not be using a whole nuke to make sure she gets out, gets mated, and comes back.
I like that. That's interesting.
So yeah, the resource hives has so many uses and so many ideas. There's so many things to do with it. That's why you have to make your decision on why you're going to do it, and then work with that system. Kathy, you want to get this one?
Sure. Where am I? The Queen Castle?
Yes, please.
Okay. Because I bought a Queen Castle last year, and what
Yes.
I like, what you're talking about is I have problems with my divider boards, and I never thought about siliconing them.
That
So
was just me saying that. Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to silicone mine because mine is 3 frames of 3.
And if you see this, these are only 1/4 inch, and they do
Right.
warp. They
I know.
don't hold true.
They
They
don't.
were like a press board.
There was a press board that came in it, but I went out and bought 1/4 inch plywood. But I
Correct.
felt like I had bee space. So if I get the aquarium silicone, I can take care of the bee space and just make it a permanent, because the bottom
Yes.
board has the different entrances, which I'm ahead of the game.
Yes.
Cool. I learned a lot just then. Thank you. Okay, a queen castle has a bottom board that provides each nuke with its own entrance on different sides of the box, as well as a ventilation from below to help each nuke maintain temperature. A queen castle also requires a standard 10-frame telescoping top. The concept of the queen castle, let's take the 4 2-frame division as an example. Works by taking a frame with a queen cell and either a frame of honey or a feeder with for the bees. Within the 2 to 3 weeks, if all goes well, you should have newly mated queen and a starter colony. Again, I will be doing more research and hopefully writing more on this in the near future. Consider this as a start into learning about increasing your apiary through nukes and rearing queens and queen castles.
Now, it is not mandatory that you leave this into the 3 or the 4 divisions. As you see, those divider boards come out.
Right.
So you could make a 2 4-frame nuke, a nuke with 4 here and 4 here, leave the divider board in the middle. Or
I'm
you
thinking
could also,
about when you're talking about using what you have, I took the
Yes.
3 top boards and I put the holes in it for the
Jar.
jars already.
Uh,
So I should just put that back together, but silicone it into place so I don't have my bee space problem.
yeah, or you can even take those 2 pieces of 1/4 inch that you're seeing there popped up and have that as 2, 4, 6. That would
Right.
hold 6 frames, and you could have a queen cup, queen, the queen cell just in the 2 frame side on the other sides. So you can manipulate this
Right.
in many ways, depending on what you're wanting to do. So it doesn't have to stay as a 2 frame. You can turn it to a 4 or 6, or you can take them all out and just use it as a 10 frame itself. Well, it'd be 8. It would hold 8.
The light bulb that you got with me was when you said that you use this and then you move your queen once she's viable and laying and put it in a nuke box.
Mhm.
I like that idea tremendously.
Or if you've only got the 1, you can grow her in the 2 frame. And then if she goes out, gets mated, and goes back, make her a 4 frame. She can still stay in that box, just take that next divider
Right,
board.
that's what I did last year.
Yeah.
And I used her.
Hey, Phyllis, Brenda Kiwi's on her way in. Watch for her.
Okay.
Did you read all of that? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that was all my pictures. So that's why I wanted to pull these 2, and I wanted to show you the 2 different kinds or different ways of doing this. And then we could, would talk over. You have to know what you're going to be using this system, what you're aiming to get.
Right.
And then as you can look at these, you would also be able to adapt a lot of the equipment that you already have.
Right. I went out and bought the 1/4 inch plywood because I didn't like that particle board.
Right. I didn't either because it's warpy. So I will have to change mine out this spring when I start using it, because it warped. So then it didn't set right with the little top slats.
Yes.
And it allowed bees to move
Right.
back and forth,
The bee
which
space, the bee space. Yeah, that's why I like the
Yeah.
silicone. I was thinking more about having to remove those panels, but I can actually commit to having that one box with 3 sections in it and just silicone it and be better off.
Mhm.
Since I had
Yeah.
that bottom board.
Right.
That's big.
Yeah. Now you could also, if you got the 3 or this one's got the 4, you don't have to let them use all those entrances either. You
Right.
can tape it off,
Yes.
and make them one go out the front and then the other 3 go out the back or the other side, whichever way you wanted it to work. So these work in many different ways, and you'll work in many different ways for the reasons you're using them.
Right. Nice little project for me.
Yeah. A nice little experiment, huh?
Where do you all buy your queen castles? If you're
I
gonna go
bought-
that route,
I
where
bought
did you all
mine
get them?
last year at Hive Life.
Okay. But does any of the big, I know I personally.
Fan Lake.
Man Lake, okay. I was gonna ask. Thank you for reading my mind.
Yeah, I can tell. Words are coming to you here. Well, that is one source. I'm sure there is other styles, other ways,
I
but
would talk
Hey,
to
Rhonda,
Bearsville.
are you going to Hive Life?
No.
Okay, because one of the vendors is actually has a sale on a Queen Castle. Discounted.
Kathy, who is it?
I don't remember. If you go to the Hive Life page,
Oh,
They list
God,
all
with the
the
list of
different
vendors.
they list the vendors, and I went and clicked all the vendors, and one of them had Queen Castles.
Hey,
the
guys.
fun- The funniest thing I saw today on that Hive Life thing was this guy posted, he goes, my wife saw.
I
the
saw
bank
that.
statement today and said, are you buying me a chicken coop? Honey, why would I buy you a chicken coop? I'm going to a bee conference. She said, because that's where you're going to be when you come home.
That's where you'll be sleeping.
hey, Rhonda, I know Bearsville does have some of these. And also, I think Al may have made 1 or 2 of these. Al Wade here in Morgantown.
Has the 2 nuke boxes over the,
Yeah.
the
It's nice. I think it was sold for like $100 complete.
That's
Oh,
all.
really?
Yeah, he,
From Bearsville?
you know, Bearsville will come to your next B meeting in Kingwood and present you all the stuff that they have. That he'll set up a table and show you all the different equipment they make.
They make all their own equipment, correct?
Yes.
I've been reading about all these vendors lately. Whew.
Hmm.
That'd be good, Rhonda. And
Yeah,
you-
would, Terry, I agree. All right, we need
Yeah.
to talk about that.
Yeah,
I have a question.
he's come to
When you
ours.
get- Are they usually assembled or you assemble them?
Probably
I-
either.
Probably in either.
I
Yeah.
bought one from them and it was assembled.
Assembled. Yeah.
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 Okay.
Mine, I think, was also, but I did drill the jar holes in
Yeah,
mine.
me too. I did the same thing you did.
I didn't personally do it. I had it done.
I didn't.
Okay.
Only because he had it out there. He just did it because he was there. But I put 2 holes in mine and was using a pint. So they would have 2 pints.
Oh, okay.
And then I didn't have to use another full deep on there. I could only use, you know, the next size box.
Right, the medium.
So you can make it to do whichever you want, but I made 2 holes in each one. But I also staggered my holes. You don't want them to be in a straight
I
row.
did too.
Your jars won't fit in there right. So you do have to stagger your holes so your jars aren't, you know, stuck up together. There's
That's
the lights.
Bearsville's $109. I don't know if someone said that a while ago.
Yeah, Bethany said about 100. Yes.
Yeah.
109.
Is that a Hive Lifestyle or is that the regular?
No, that's Bearsville.
Yeah.
Price.
Kathy, what was the price that you saw for High Life?
I don't remember. It was somewhere around $100.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's 109 here.
Yeah, that's about around $100. Yeah, I just went down and checked the vendors to see what they all had for sale.
It has 2 nukes on top and of each other, and there is a space for 16 frame total in the whole resource hub. There's an entrance to the front and the nuke and the other is in the back. So
So he'd be a 4x4 or 4/4.
yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what Al has his sold for. I do have to go down and see him.
Well,
Oh, he
And,
actually makes them, not just for himself.
Yes.
No, he makes and sells, yes.
if you have to buy boxes, they're so easy to have a blow Joe down the road. Just put a groove in the center of your box
Yeah.
and buy a board to fit and just hammer it in there, and or you can screw it however you want to do it. But it's not that hard of a concept if you know anybody that has minimal woodworking skills, they can do it for you.
Yeah, you
Oh.
wouldn't even need to have a groove. You could just make it fit and then screw it in from the side.
Well, that's
you could-
true.
You could route a groove in it. I have a
Well,
router. You could route a groove
You
in it and
could,
then
but you wouldn't even need it for if you're gonna make a 4x4.
What I'm saying is you can do this, but not all of us. I couldn't do it without my husband. So I know that
Mm,
Terry can do it and Debbie could probably do it and
I
you
do.
know,
that.
Kathy can do it and Bethany can do it, but we're not all like that. So
I have to have my husband help.
yeah, yeah.
But
I have a-
I'm
I
a
have
bigger
a
router than
router.
The one
But-
thing I do is I have a tendency to get one, like I bought I like those feeder boxes. I only have 6 hives for now. God, you
Yeah.
know, hopefully they'll split next year, but you know, those boxes that sit on the top where they come up the middle and have the floating slats. I typically will get 1 or 2 store-bought ones and then have my husband who say, "Oh, I'm not doing anything for those damn bees." I say, "Put your white hat on and come supervise me," you know,
Right.
and then it makes it
Right.
a little bit easier. If it's an I'm one, I need to see it in front of me with somebody's idea how to correctly make it work, and then I can work
When
my
I'm
way through it.
when I was doing my little bit of research here to find these, I think I seen like 8 or 9 YouTubes. So run through your favorite beekeeper and see how they do it, or check out several of those YouTubes, because they will tell you the system to do for what you want it to do, what you're using it for.
Well,
If you want it to be queens, if you want it to be for brood, or if you know, if you're just growing hives.
yeah. Well, I know we have the thicker board in the middle, just like Debbie's picture showed, and it's a sloppy 4 over. And they always, you don't have enough room to put one more frame in there, but it gives you a lot too much room because they build Bergholm. That's why we decided to take that big board out and put a thinner board so we can get one more frame and call it 5 over 5. So think of that when you're looking at what you want to do. So yeah,
Very interesting stuff.
like Debbie said, anything you can find on YouTube and follow it. But just know that if you get a thicker board, and I can tell you, what's that size that we put in? What?
3/8.
3/4. We put a 3/4,
3/4.
and so it's not enough to do one more frame, and too much to not do it. So it
Could you
just gives
use a
you too
piece
much
of
room.
pen?
Huh?
Could you use a pen? Would it make any difference if it's not tin, metal? Could you use a piece of tin as the divider or not?
I wouldn't. I think it'd be too hot.
Yeah, me
Yeah,
too.
I think it would be
I
too
use
hot.
1/4 inch and that worked good to replace the particle
No.
board.
Now we have some metal that is white and brown,
Yeah.
and I don't think that gets hot ever. So you
Okay.
can do something like that.
I would think more about a groove going down the outside if I did use a 1/4 inch, because you would want it to slide down through there.
Mhm.
A 1/4 inch would be too hard to staple or screw because it's just not
Right.
enough meat to it.
Yes.
And the problem with these, the only gripe that I have is like if one side of it dies and the other one's doing good, or you're putting them both in deeps or a bigger nuke box, then you don't have, when you pull one side out to put it in the deep, then there's leftover bees. And so if you're not going to demolish the other side, then you can't get those bees.
Right.
That's the problem that I have found with them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It
Yeah,
does.
which is not a big ordeal. You try to smoke them out of there or whatever, or you can put if you have time, you can put a comb on there or something and let them get on there, and then come back that evening and take it and shake it in the hive that they came from. So, or in the front of them. So, but I never go back. I never have time to, I'm in the now. So, but you can do that. It's just like moving a hive and you leave stragglers behind. You put a piece of comb in there to gather them up, and then you take them to their home, the next morning or whatever. Same concept. But they're great, and I don't have as many bred queens. Good. I use them when my queens are already bred. What am I trying to say? I don't have a good percentage of them getting bred well in those.
I did have success, but I don't know what my percentage was. Because I was just doing it.
Only did one
halfway.
that was 100%.
Yeah.
But it came in
Yes.
handy when I needed it.
Right. So, because then as soon as I knew she could back and started laying, then I just moved her to a nuke and then off it
Right.
went. So I didn't keep a percentage of that.
How far away do you need to have your queen castle from your other hives?
Mine sat right in the middle of the whole line.
Mine sat right in the middle.
So say if you lose a queen, like you have a swarm, or the queen dies or whatever, and you want to use one of those queens out of that queen castle, so you put her in the other hive that needs it, so she probably won't leave, right?
correct.
You still have to cage her when you move her.
Mhm.
Okay, and it doesn't matter if those other bees go with her because there's not that many of them, and
Right.
there'd be more in your other
Right.
hive. Is that right or wrong?
Yeah, you're correct.
You
You're
can
correct.
put it in a 10 frame, like if you're adding it to a big hive, you can
Yeah.
just put that whole resource hive over in a big frame until you let that queen out. And then once they get mingled, then you can take that 10 frame out and put the frames that went with the queen down in the deep or whatever.
Say that again. Say that again.
Well, if you're doing a 5 frame nuke or a 5 frame
Queen cow.
resource hive, and
Okay.
you're going to take the whole kit and caboodle, then you get they're in a nuke size, right? So you need a deep. So you take an empty deep and you move that resource hive, the whole complete resource hive over, and then you can fill the rest in with foundation or whatever. And I'm saying, like, if that hive is already too deep, then you don't want a third deep on there with nothing in it but a brood and and stuff like that. So you let the queen out in 4 days or whatever, and they didn't kill her, then you can take her resource hive frames and put them down in, I'm sure there's some that you can pull out and
Right.
replenish, and then take that third box off.
Another thing we got to remember, I personally have only ever seen them on deeps. If you run mediums, if you run the shorter, your shorter frames, I've never seen one that's anything other than a 10 frame, a large frame, the largest
Well,
frame.
that's what I was wondering, if you made your own and used, because I have a deep and a medium is what I do for brood. Is there any reason why I couldn't put a medium on top there and do it like that? Does it make any difference?
So repeat what you're saying. Your bottom is going to be a deep, and your second box will be a medium.
Yeah.
If you'd have to have your second box modified, with the divider.
Right.
Plus, if you're using it for a resource hive, in my little twisted brain, I'm going to want all my frames to be the same size. If I'm switching brood or switching wax or switching that,
Yeah.
It depends on what you run, but I use all deep boxes except for my honey supers.
That's what I tend to do.
Right, but she doesn't. She
I
does
don't.
a deep.
Okay.
Her brood consists of 1 deep and 1 medium. But if you did it in deeps, then Terry, then that's where your brood's going to go. It's going to go in that bottom deep.
Always.
Always. Don't worry about the medium on top of it.
Okay.
But if you went to all mediums,
like I think Lois or Louisa is, so she will have to modify.
You can use, it's the same thing. It's just your frames are shorter. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah, it goes back to, like, as you start out trying to keep all the same type of equipment. So like Al now is switching all into 8 frames in mediums to make them lighter. So you will have to adapt.
Yeah, I've done both. I'm done, but if they stay alive.
I have one hive like that with a medium and deep, and the only reason I did that is because it was a swarm and I ran out of boxes.
Right.
I'm trying to figure out how to get it back to 2 deeps again.
Well, that's this spring when they're, done whatever, and you want her to move in the bottom, then just put her down in the bottom and put a queen excluder on there and let all that hatch and then take it off.
Okay.
It's on medium. That's my top box is a medium.
Right. But if you don't want that on there,
I take her on a medium frame and put her in a deep box.
No, just take her off and put her in the deep.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
you
understand
said your
that.
bottom box is a deep.
Yes.
So you just find her and put her down there, put a queen excluder on there, put your medium back on top, the queen excluder, and then that will all hatch and you can either, set it out and feed
Mhm.
your colonies with it, and then it
Okay.
becomes a brood box again.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I took your advice today too, and I got, it took me quite a while to find one, a hive carrier.
Mm,
But I gotta tell you something really fast, because I went online on Man Lake and I found what I wanted. And it was, I pulled up their up-to-date catalog, I found it, I got a price for it. But I couldn't tag it to Hive Life, so I called them. And she tells me instead of being $69 is $102.
whoa.
That's what I said, I looked at last night, this morning. And she's going, she says the catalog says prices are subject to change. I said, I went in and ordered it online on your online catalog on sale for $69. And she went back and she goes, oh, you're right. I'm gonna have to honor that. Wow.
Good for you. What did you want to say, Cheryl?
What do you do in the wintertime with your resource hive? I mean, you've got four really small colonies. Will they
I don't-
survive?
I don't use it.
I
I
mean, what
only
do you
use it in
do?
the
I mean,
spring. I just put everybody into another box and put it away.
well, if you got extra queen, I mean,
No, you can just let them grow. You start letting them grow, and then when you need an extra queen, then you just combine the whole thing.
so when you get to kind of late summer, you go ahead and put them all in their own boxes and they all have their own.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you separate them then. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I was trying to get at. I wasn't sure if you
that's what
kept everybody in that one box and put a blanket box on top to warm it, or what, I don't know.
I use mine to grow queens, and then when I get to midsummer, when I'm done growing queens, they're all by then into a box, a hive. And then
all my single deeps are my resource hives.
Mhm.
Okay.
So we'll see if they come through.
So
So you
let's,
turn your resources into a single deep for the winter.
Phyllis, when do they say is the best time in the summer? Is the summer solstice when you should requeen your hives?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's June 21st.
You want
anytime after the 21st.
After it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
want
because
them-
she will be young and full of eggs and laying like a little fiend, and then she'll lay really good to have you a good a good amount of bees to go into winter with.
That's what I
And
wanted.
they're supposed to come out in the spring, ready to robust. And but you can make her like before the 21st, but you want her born after the 21st. And that's a really good time, like if you do walkaway splits or OTS. That's a really good time because it breaks, and with me, if I did it all, then I would lose a honey crop because of my, my July and September honey. So we don't do that to our honey producers. We do that to our nukes, and then they have that brood break, and then in 21 days, when I make that queen or whatever, then in 21 days I go through and I oxalic acid them because they don't have babies yet.
Right.
Yeah. So it's
That is
really good.
I would pull a cell before the third week in June, because I want her to be born after, like say the second week in June, because it takes what, 21 days?
Yes.
Yeah, I got that 21-day window. This is
No, it doesn't take 21 days for a queen. It takes 16 days for a queen.
16, 3 weeks.
But I said in 21 days after you do that split, then that's any brood that you took with that split is hatched, and they have new mites on them. So then you zap them with oxalic acid and do it 8 grams, and then that should clear everything up. And to get you, because that's when they start growing is in July.
Okay.
Yeah, at that point, you'll only have uncapped brood because those will hatch.
Yeah.
And what she's laid
The brood break.
hasn't covered yet.
So
They
if you
haven't
don't have a
covered.
queen cell, if you don't have a queen cell and you're gonna take it, you're gonna take up your 2 frames or 3 frames or however you're gonna do, however many you're gonna take. Is the best way to get them to raise a queen is to do that cut thing with your, what's that called?
The notching, the walk away, the notch.
OTS.
Notch. Is
OTS.
that the
OTS.
best way to do it, or just stick them over there and let them go, oh, we don't have a queen?
Whichever, whatever system you want to use. We'll get Amy back in here next week. That is the system that she does. She OTSs and she banks her queens as she grows all new queens, and she gets them all to a brood break, and she has had to use very little mite treatment because that's the route she did.
Okay,
And
but
she
don't
was
say-
very
don't-
successful.
Yeah, and she's 1 in a million because
Yeah.
even the guy who invented OTS, that's where the 21-day zap comes from, because
Right.
he no longer, the mites will not, subside like that, like
Yeah.
how the program
I'm gonna zap
originated.
tomorrow.
Yeah, so, Amy's doing great, but don't say, well,
She's-
I don't need to oxalic acid, because you do.
She's
Or
only
Mike-
working 6 to 8 hives versus you that has 120,
Well, I'm even saying with 1, Mel
Yeah.
Disselcohen says it doesn't work like it used to.
Mhm.
Well, I had that brew bake in mind this summer when I split that one, and I still
And,
had
and
it.
you're shooting 100. And you're shooting 100 now, right? So,
Well, when I made my splits and stuff, I ended up with, I did not have a brood break
uh-huh.
because of the way I set mine up and give them all that brood. And so I didn't go into brood break. So I
Uh-huh.
still had to,
Mm-hmm.
I still had to work it.
I was really aggressive with mine.
Yeah.
So what are you all thinking you want to do with these resource hives? What is your ideas?
I'm
Just
gonna
try
try-
one out.
Yep.
Are you thinking you want to use them for queens, or are you thinking as a to make growth for weak hives, or are you wanting them to be, just to pull wax?
In my perfect world, I want to have a place that I can stick a queen cell. I look at Marianne Sear, she did that cute little 2-frame nuke, that she has. But the biggest thing is, like, you have a weak hive, I can go pull a frame of brood and stick it in that hive. That's what I would like to see. If somebody, say I had a queen that was slow, I had like 1 hive this year, I did not think my queen came back, and she came back red, but seemed really late. It would have been really nice to have, well, for my strongest hive, I took a frame of cat brood and shipped, oh, look at this. I took a frame of cat brood. Sorry. Put it into that hive that needed a boost, so I would like it to be able to shift brood, I think, to supply eggs to weaker hives.
Now, something else to think about too is when you're boosting that hive and you're taking the brood, even if you didn't have a resource hive, you would get it from one of your big hives, right? Okay, so then you're taking that brood and you're giving it to this weaker, but in 2 weeks it needs more, and in another week it needs more. So you need to kill that queen and start all over again, because you're just throwing it throwing it a bone, and you're getting nothing out of it but taking away from your bigger hives.
It makes sense. It's like the idea of when I first started keeping bees, and I thought, oh, I'll combine 2 weak hives and let me make a strong hive. And that doesn't work.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So don't waste all your resources on a poorly queen or, a poorly hive, period.
So use my resource hive and get me a new queen and another slow laying bitch.
Well, but if that resource hive is not doing up to par, then you need to kill her or sell her for $5 and say, hey, she wasn't doing well for me, but she might do, better in a bigger hive or something. So, yeah.
See, that's what I would like to see happen. Because this is my thinking. I mean, I just want my bees to stay alive, be able to get some honey, a little bit of wax. But I would like for our club, or even for the women's club or our local club, whatever, I'd like to see, like, okay, if I have this and I have queens and I don't need it and Rhonda needs one,
Mhm.
$5, you got a queen. I get, you get maybe a little bit of something out, but that's where I think the helping each other is a big deal. Because I know when I was in a rut, like, oh my gosh, and that's just my feelings on it. If you have it and you can share it and help someone else out, I think that's a big deal too. That's my thinking. That's for what it's worth. And then I'd end up probably needing it and not having anything.
Well, some of us are learning enough to be almost dangerous that we're at this point.
It's going to be trial and error. Wait a minute. Oh, I'll turn myself off.
I don't want to keep spending $130 to $150 for nukes every year. I'm hoping to be able to get to a point where I can build resource hives to use and then eventually become their own hives so that my apiary grows. I want a larger apiary without having to invest a whole bunch more money in it. So that's my purpose of
Well,
having it.
we lost some hives, and we took 26 hives that we had left and a few years ago and OTS every one of them. And we ended up with 106 hives that we split out of those 26.
So it's
And
easy to get out of hand with it as well
well,
as
I'm
what
just
you
saying,
say.
if you want to grow, that's how you do it. And then with those that didn't get mated or was a bad queen that came back that didn't, hang, then we ended up with 96 going into winter. So, it's very doable, and you don't have to really notch. It's kind of like you take the queen away and go back in 7 days, and then find some queen cells and move them over with a nuke, or your queen castle. And when you make a queen, once they are capped, then you can do little hives. But you need to grow a queen cell in a big hive, not a nuke and not a queen castle, because they need that extra royal jelly to be healthy and robust. And they're only going to get that with a bunch of nurse bees. So when you make them, you want to give them a pollen patty, and you need to feed them if they don't have enough, food in there. So don't just
Okay,
go
so,
out and say, oh, I'm making queens. So you need to prepare your hive before you
well,
make.
yeah, okay, yeah, it's more, we're more using it as resource for more brood and eggs and that stuff. But in the end, at the end of the year, my goal is to still be able to have that queen be laying well enough to be able to maintain her own hive at that point.
Yeah, and you can do that. Michael
I
Palmer
don't want to
does
be
that.
100 hives. I would like to be
No,
about 10
no.
hives.
Right. But you can take that resource hub, and you can, as long as she has, 5 frames in the bottom with brood and pollen and, your normal nuke, and then on top, 5 frames of honey. And that's what he takes his in up in uh, New Hampshire, wherever he's at. And no, he's not from Massachusetts, but Vermont. Thank you, Rick.
Vermont.
And he gets them through winter. So, so that it's very doable. And 5 frames of honey on top of that, and then that's what they go through winter with. And then you can always do the sugar board or whatever that West Virginia people do, because that's what we've been taught. So, but if they have the 5 frames of honey, they should make it through.
Mm.
So
So this leads me to another topic for another night. How do you determine how many hives your apiary can successfully sustain with the food resources they have within their flying radius?
Well,
Mm.
the state has that figured out for you
Mhm.
if you believe in them. On my farm, I went, well, I had 94 on my farm, and they pulled honey, they did everything. But you know where I live, and I don't have any other competition. So, um, like city people, they may not have the flora and the fauna that we do. So that depletes you as well.
Right.
So you're on mute, Sue.
That's a good thing. I don't have anybody within a 2-mile radius of me that has hives that I know of. And I have Google search, I got that freaking thigh collar for my dog with the GPS now.
Yeah.
And those pictures are freaking. I could see the color of the cars. They are super updated. I have searched out.
Yeah.
And then like here in the spring, I am in the middle of like, it's hundreds of acres of woods from me down to the river. So, and it's full of tulip poplar. So I know in the spring I have tulip poplar. I know that I have
If it
blackberry.
hits.
Yes, yes. And I know the fall we're, goldenrod again, which we got smacked on 2 years ago, so, but I mean, I only have 6 hives, but in a perfect world, I think, oh, I'd like to have 20 hives. And then
I would say you could probably have 30 before you had to blink an eye.
yeah, I'm learning. I'm still learning.
Yeah, I think you could easily do 30 and then see, how much you feed them and whatever, because they're going to tell you if they can,
Do it
grow
or not.
there. If
And
there's
I
enough.
wish I had your beautiful flat because there is no flat property on my 22 acres. None,
Mm.
none. Everything is on a freaking, I have stands where I can lift the bottom hive off, no problem. And the top hive, I'm like, I'm going to have an effing step stool.
Right.
Yeah, there's nothing I can do about it. It's just a freaking, it's a
Yeah.
hill. Well, it's a husband.
Hey, husband.
Al.
Hi, Al.
Hey, Al.
He waved.
Hey, Miller.
There's a drone in the zone.
He's still alive.
I bet he doesn't do that for a long time.
You're hearing right.
So yeah. I think you could grow double what you're doing or even triple and you would be fine.
Well, we'll see. We're going into winter looking pretty good. Oh, and those, you guys in your file folders and put the Crisco. I did my treatment and I tested all 6 hives before I did the treatment. And I got between 1 and 12 mites per half cup of bees. I had a couple hives that were like 1, 3, 4, then 12, 12. And I put those, I treated them, put sticky boards in, looked at the first day each hive, total like 4 or 5 mites. I'm like, ooh, you're good. Went out 2 days later, 85, 90.
Oh.
But then I'm thinking, okay.
You had a good hatch.
It's the whole hive. I'm not doing it again. I'm not going to count again. I'll do it again. I'll vape them again when it gets, we have another warmer day, but, and I didn't kill them because I used my Lorabi gun for the first time and they're like, oh, you saw the, I just took the cap, packed it full of oxalic acid. I have no idea how much I put in. It was a lot, but everybody seems to be alive. There were no drops of bees. I looked, underneath and everybody's still alive. So it was another, again, stupid things that Sue does, but I don't think I had horrible negative results this time.
Yeah, so that proves the point where you have to wait to 48 to 72 hours to check your folders.
Yep.
Am I the only first-year beekeeper in here right now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm just curious what everybody else found as being their biggest struggle this year. The mites were not my problem. I'll tell you what, them yellow jackets did me a number.
I did not have any this year. I had
cannot
my.
believe-
Earl,
Okay, so
Earl,
this spring,
put up a trap in March.
yeah, that's what I was gonna
I'm
say. So
going
this
to this
spring,
time,
you're
but
gonna-
I mean, I could sit here and cry right now. You have no idea. I lost my one hive, which was largest, and I had put extra resources in it. I had bought a nuke and added to it at the end here because I lost my queen. And that's the one that they wiped completely out. And I mean, they took every last bit of brood that was in there, all the everything. I mean, they took all the honey, everything. There was nothing. It was drained. And I'm talking within like 2 or 3 days
Oh,
because I
sure.
was treating my hives every 3 days. I was going down and pulling mite boards, replacing them and retreating again. And they wiped that hive completely out. My other 2 hives, they were stronger, so they didn't get them as bad, but they did get into those ones as well. I had entrance reducers on. I had extra sticks in front of the entrances to keep anything, and they still managed to get in there. I have no idea where they were coming from.
Girl, like Phyllis and Kathy both said, those yellow jackets, only the queen overwinters. They do
Mhm.
not make their nest closer than about, I don't know, was it 300 feet? It's 300 yards. It's a big distance. So if you put, like Kathy said and Phyllis said, if you put those traps out in the spring with
Yep.
the protein source and you get that queen, then you're going to erase that problem.
You're gonna correct, yeah, it's like Susan says, if you attack it early in the spring, you're gonna
Yep.
start making a better future for years and years to come. You gotta keep it.
And you can put them out later too, because we found
Yes.
that out this year, that if you put them out later, then you can catch them again.
Right. I do
So,
mine 3 times. I put mine out in March. When it's full, I redo it, and in the fall, I do it again, and then I take it down and put them away.
I pulled my traps out late, that I do know.
yeah,
But they were I mean, not to the point where my hive and my houses are quite a ways apart from one another. And
mhm,
I ended up with yellow jackets in the soffit of my house up here.
yeah.
I mean, big swarm that we had to go up and remove and take care of. But the yellow jackets just took me out this year. And I mean, it's depressing. And I
You'll
don't
have
know
days
if my
like
other
that.
2 are going to make it. I did
Sure.
go down today. There were a few bees coming and going.
Good.
But there still looks like there's some that have, like froze and died and laying out on the edge of the
Well,
entrance.
you have the winter bees, or the fall bees dying right now. That's
Yes.
what people are freaking out, because so many dead bees are in front of their hive.
Yeah, and
And
that's
it's
what
just
I'm
fall
finding.
bees,
Like,
and now what's in there are truly the winter bees. So you should see less dead cartridges. So
I got my infrared camera coming. Hopefully it'll be here
Oh.
next
well, I
Sunday.
hope you can read it better than I can.
I just need to be able to see that I have something alive in there. I don't care how big of a reading I can get, but just to be able to not have to open that top or
Yeah, don't
I was
open
at
it.
I was at my local club meeting and Harry Carr, he sells stuff down at the Morgantown bee market. And I said to him, I said, dude, I got that FLIR camera. I said, but I go out there and I can see where there's supposed to be bees, but then the top's hot and this. He said he finds the best way he does it is he goes out after dark.
Yeah.
That way there's no heat from the sun off the
Huh,
telescope.
okay. Good
And
deal.
he says that way, he said, you're not competing with any light, with sun, with anything being heated. He says, go out at dark. And but my hives are freaking 400 feet from my house and the coyotes are yipping and yelling. The last thing I want to do is walk on the damn hill where it's past black. But I may try that.
Yeah.
Make sure, take
I
Charlie
can't
with
read
you.
my
I'm
dance.
in group if that's okay. That's all right.
Hey, Deb,
Yes.
do you sell those discs?
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring some with you to the Hive conference. I'll buy a few from you.
Okay.
Thanks.
I'm so excited for January and my brother's coming.
Oh, Phyllis, are you there?
Uh-huh, I'm here. I'm just
Made
sitting in the
arrangements with
dark.
my
Hey,
brother.
Barb.
I may be showing up
Good night, Barb.
for a day visit. the
Yeah,
last week
I'm
of
trying to
March.
get Kathy and Debbie to come down at the same time, but Kathy's changed her mind.
Well, I'm coming the first week of March. My dad is in Eustis. It's an hour and 50 minutes north of you. So I
Perfect.
can stay at the little Verbo and then
Phyllis,
I can drive down and spend the day
I'll
with
probably
you.
be flying down by myself later. This trip is with the husband and I think I got, because I gotta see Sally anyway.
Yeah, okay. Well, do
I'm
that
leaving
first
my
March.
husband home.
You're there until the 1st of March, yeah.
No, I'm probably here until the third week. It all depends on the weather. I probably won't come back for the conference.
So Susan, when do you think about going?
I need to go either the first or second week of March because Al has his big echocardiogram, all that shit at the heart failure clinic, March 15th. So and my dad's turning 88. So, and we have a fishing, we're gonna do a charter fishing trip. So
Yeah,
I'm
nice.
gonna go down with my brother, stay in Eustis, see my daddy for 2 days, and then keep the place I'm staying in Eustis, drive down one morning. Phil doesn't know this yet, but I'm gonna leave my house, drive down to her place, have an adventure, and then drive back up to my daddy's that night.
But we have 4 bunks here that you guys can sleep
Cool.
in.
Well,
Dude,
my
My dad's
family,
88. He'll give me the evil eye. I don't see him that much.
and Phyllis, my stepmom lives on Satellite Beach. What's it, about 20 minutes from
Yep.
you?
Yeah. Okay.
Yay!
Debbie, do you want to stop this recording or
Oh,
Yes.
since we're talking about Florida?
All right.